Good evening to everyone and welcome to our channel Horizons Tomorrow. Tonight is a very special occasion because today on February the 23rd of 1973, I start my life as a Russell International Yo-Yo Champion with the Russell family. And I am honored to have Ricky and Ken Rossi with me tonight. Good evening, Ricky. Good evening, Ken. How have you been?
Good evening, Gustavo. Doing well.
Everything's great. Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much for attending my invitation. Well, as I explained before, it happened on an afternoon of 1973 on February the 23rd, 50 years exactly today. And I just wanted to celebrate with you two guys, although I really would like to have more people of our company, but actually, as we experienced last time, it is very difficult to manage so many people. And if I would like to say something at this point, I would like to thank the Russell family, especially your dad, Jack Russell. I would like to thank Dick Moffat, Davy Jones, Alfonso Trujillo, Lucho Hood-Walker, Christian Cartagena, and so many others. And forgive me for not mentioning all of them, but all of them were great colleagues, great bosses, and besides that, great human beings that I have the chance to travel over 53 countries and master, with humbly speaking, master 5 languages. So it happened in an afternoon when I was kind of desperate because my university was on a strike. I had a long hair, whether you believe it or not, and I looked very much like a hippie. And I was just walking up and down the streets of my city of Medellin, Colombia, and the horizons and the clouds were very dark because I was not working to help my family. I was not studying, and I didn't know what to do because my university was on a strike. And all of a sudden, in one of the major squares in town, Nutiwara Square, all of a sudden, a miracle happened. And the 58 trucks of the Coca-Cola local bottler in Medellin appeared in front of my face. And then I could not believe my eyes. And actually, JJ's youngest brother, Omar Girardo, looked that burning desire in my eyes, and he grabbed me and he pulled me into that truck, into the most wonderful fairy tale that I could have ever lived. We're 22 years of history with the Russell Company and with the Coca-Cola Company that changed not only my life, but my family's life. And if I will have to start all over again, and God will tell me, what would you do different in your life? I would have done nothing different. I would have done exactly the same. And so this is the way I wanted to start this great and lovely conversation, Ricky and Ken.
That's awesome. So much history, Gustavo.
Absolutely, absolutely. Actually, one of the announcements that I would like to make tonight, Ricky and Ken, is that finally, and after so many tries, finally, my book is almost ready. And I will see the light in a few months. And I'm pretty sure, I hope, that you guys will enjoy every single page of it. It took me a long time, as I said before, but finally, it's almost ready. Okay, how do you like the news, Ken?
That's great. I look forward to it. Ricky and I have always talked about writing a book to capture the story and the memories. Yours is very unique, but we know so many yo-yo champions who have their stories of how they were discovered or how they discovered us and where it took them throughout the world in their lives and their professional experience. And of course, Dad has his story as well. So I'm really glad that you recorded yours, and I can't wait to see it. Can't wait to read it.
Yes. What do you think, Ricky?
I think it's fantastic. I mean, I remember you working on it so hard, and we got to see a little snippet of that and just the early reads, it was a good story to begin with. I think yours is probably going to have more detail than any other story that would have been put together, because you're such a stickler for the small things. You know so much and so many people. I have difficulty remembering, what I had for lunch, but I'm really
Gustavo
looking
still
forward
has
to
every
seeing.
flight ticket stub. I hope they're all in the book.
So it's so funny that you should say that. I remember you had given me a little ball of wax for during one of the campaigns. I still have the ball. One of the few things that I actually kept.
Actually, let me disclose to you and to all our viewers what happened and why I decided to do it this year. On November the 30th, I was invited by the Coca-Cola company here in Colombia by the wonderful guy by the name of Daniel Suarez. He invited me to the Coca-Cola Christmas party, and I was able to perform again in front of a huge audience of all the journalists here in Colombia. And the night before, I couldn't sleep. And the night after, I couldn't sleep either. And it was like going back into action. And, Coca-Cola and Daniel Suarez were so happy with our performance that he invited me to launch a sustainability campaign in one of the major radio stations that you actually have given interviews to, Ken, when you were the Miami commissioner. It was the W Radio here in Colombia with Julio Sanchez Cristo, and Daniel Suarez wanted me to be the cherries of the cake. And he wanted to finish his great presentation about how Coca-Cola is going to be very sustainable as from now on. And he actually allowed me to put a great show live on this radio station. And on January the 1st, I decided to sit every day for 2 hours. And I have rewritten my book. Listen carefully. I am not using the old stuff that I have written before. I have rewritten my book, and I have a deadline that it was today, February the 23rd of 2023, and my book is almost ready. And it might not be a bestseller, but Ricky, Ken, please listen to me carefully, and all our viewers. If only one person, hopefully a young kid or a young girl, will read the book and will achieve her dream or his dream, I'll be more than happy with that. Only one person that my book will give it that extra push in order to achieve their goals, I'll be more than happy. Hopefully there will be more, but only one achieve the dreams, I can go away happily. How do you think about that, Ken?
That's an excellent goal. I mean, the story is very inspiring, and it's especially one that tells kids that they can do anything and be anything, no matter where they come from or no matter where they live. And we're all testament to that. So yes, that's a great goal.
Absolutely. Ricky.
Yes.
What do you think about that thing that I just said?
I think it's awesome. I mean, if you set your goal for one, that's an achievable goal for sure.
Absolutely.
I think I agree with Ken. The story it's got everything you want. All the excitement that happens around the promotions. I'm sure you're going to be able to capture that. But not having seen the book, I want to be able to read it for sure.
Absolutely. Now,
I think you got two. You have two people here that'll be inspired anyways.
Not a problem. Yours are secure. Now, one question, Ken. I remember you telling me that I don't know whether it's Ricky or you. One of the two of you said to me that your dad, Jack Russell, in his high school book, he wrote something there, if I'm not mistaken, something that he wanted to be a great businessman. Is that correct?
So in his yearbook, he was
yes.
Yes. So he was in the class of 1938 and a half. And in an American tradition, they often give prophecies of what they believe you'll be doing in 10 years or 20 years. And the prophecy for Jack Russell from his high school friends was that Jack Russell would sell yo-yos back to the Philippines. And of course, it came true.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ricky, how would you like to add something about your dad's story, please?
About my dad's story? What would you like to know? There's a lot of cool.
Just a brief story of what he did in life. So
there's not much that he hasn't done. You know, if you look at just the stuff he achieved with just doing the yo-yo, that's one thing. But he was also a real estate expert. He designed houses. He flew planes. You know, he fought in the war and taught people how to fly. I mean, he was literally a Renaissance man that, you know, a lot of people, you know, outside the family don't know this, but, you know, he was so much more than just yo-yo. The yo-yo was what he was most well known for just because it had touched so many people. And I can tell you from experience that even today, you know, if I happen to be traveling and I see somebody that's of the right age, they'll remember the work that he did, like Australians in particular, because we'd been going there for so many decades. They will have remembered the program. They will remember Dick Moffat. They remember, you know, everything that was done. So, I mean, he's touched a lot of different lives and many different levels. And this is, you know, one of the more memorable pieces, but he had done so many awesome things.
Did he ever?
It's like,
Go ahead, Ricky.
No, go. That was it.
There's the house that we lived on in Key Biscayne, which of course you visited back in the days, and Dad built it in the early 70s, and we only lived there for 6 years or so. We left in 1979, so 44 years ago. One of my friends who knows me not from the yo-yo world, but from a later part of my life, bought the house next door to that house. And he said to me the other day, he's like, do you know they call the house next to mine the yo-yo house?
Mm-hmm.
43 years later, since Dad lived there and built that house from wood that came from the Philippines, they still call it the yo-yo house.
Wow.
And the reason why they call it the yo-yo house is because every Halloween, my dad would give out Coca-Cola yo-yos that were made in the Philippines. They're the ones with the reflector and the elliptical ones. He would give those away for Halloween, and we had kids from all over Key Biscayne and parts of Miami that would literally trek to the house just to get one of those yo-yos. And from the stories that I've been told, famous people, actors that have grown up on the Key, I think Andy Garcia was one of them. He knows the house is the yo-yo house as well, which is really kind of an interesting side story.
Wow. Do I ever remember the house? It was back in 1974, in my way back from Japan, when I visited Fernwood Road in Key Biscayne. And your dad had that beautiful white Cadillac parked outside of his house. Huh? What wonderful memories those were. Now, Ken, how would you like to disclose to me which one was the very first campaign that you were involved in with the company?
So Ricky started 1 year before I did. I believe he went to Spain first. And then when I turned 14 years old, I was learning yo-yo, and Dad challenged me. He said, if you can learn to play with two hands, we'll send you on tour. And so by that summer, I was really good with my right. I was weak with my left, but I could get 10 loops with two hands. And so they sent me to Australia, which was my very first campaign. And that's where you and I met.
How about that? And with all due respect, Ken, isn't that a coincidence that I joined the company the very same year that you were born? How about that?
Yes, that was 1973 is a good vintage.
Absolutely. Ricky,
Yes.
How would you like to disclose to our viewers, when did you first join the company for a promotion, for a campaign?
Well, it's a little different than that. I mean, the memory was that Australia was the very first time that I actually participated in the yo-yo campaign along with Ken. we went over there to Sydney and Melbourne, and we were only there for a short period of time. But being able to go to the milk shops and participate, at that time, I was not proficient at the two hands at all. He did a little better than I did. But we were there to learn kind of the rudimentaries of the business as far as the demonstration part. And the next campaign that I actually went on was the one with Spain. And
I
was picked
misremembered.
up at
So
the airport.
the first one was Australia for both of us then.
Yes, because I was 16, you were 15.
That's right.
Or 17.
Well,
17?
I was 14. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was 14
Were
when
you
we
14?
left. I was 14 when we left. Yeah, and 15 when I came back.
As a matter of fact, I remember meeting you guys in Australia with your dad and your mom, and we were having a very nice glass of Australian wine and in a kind of a picnic. And after a few drinks, your dad got very warm and very, very nice. And he said to me something that I have never, ever forgot. He said, Gustavo, you speak kind of a good English, but I'm going to send you to an institute so they can get rid of that Latin accent, so you can talk like a real American. And I said to
mission
him,
accomplished.
Yes, but I said to him, please don't do me that favor. I want to be like Ricardo Montalban or whoever. I want to have my own Latin accent. Never mind talking about like an Australian or English or American. And he just laughed. He laughed the rest of the afternoon.
So that's funny you should say that, because I've heard you speak other languages, and when you speak Japanese, you don't have a Latin accent. Yes, it actually comes off as very authentic Japanese. I mean, the phonetics are very similar. Onaji desu yo.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you very much for the compliment, Ricky. But yeah, I guess very briefly, Japanese language is based on vowels.
Mm-hmm.
In Spanish we say a, e, I, o, u. In Japanese we say a, I, u, e, o, sa, si, su, se, so, ta, te, to, nani, nune, no. What have you? But anyway, Ricky, tell me a good anecdote about your trips with the company. A very good one.
Oh gosh, the best was going to the schools. I'd worked Korea a couple times, and one of my very fondest memories was going to a school to do a demonstration along with my driver. And we would go into the school and meet with the headmaster and try to convince them to allow us to do the demonstration. And at that time, it was very much like we do all the campaigns. You go to the school first, then you go and you select the contest that you're going to be having, and then you go back to the school once they give you permission, or you go there the same day and they're able to do a quick assembly. Well, I didn't know it. The school that we had chosen was a combination of elementary school all the way up through high school, and there must have been 200 to 400 kids at this school. And so when they brought me out there, it was me and the driver, and they had this stage out in the middle of this courtyard where the kids used to do their calisthenic exercises and whatnot. And it was huge. The stage was probably 20 by 20 feet, just a big concrete slab that was up against, above ground. And so they had told everybody, they made the announcements on the speaker that they were going to have the yo-yo champion from America. They come in to give yo-yo demonstrations and invite everybody to participate in a yo-yo contest. So we go there and everything's going well. I get the volunteer kids and, I picked some of the kids out of the crowd to do a couple tricks, to take the coin off the ear, all the things that we were so, enjoyed doing and good at. The kids started getting a little rowdy, and I look off to the right to see my driver walking backwards, because she sensed something was wrong. And then the next thing you know, she's doing a full sprint. And all of a sudden the kids start surging the stage, and they're trying to grab my yo-yos and trying to grab in my pockets. It was a very amazing thing. It was like being a rock star. I mean, they didn't mean any harm or anything like that, but just to see, how that excitement would grab them. and we had some of the biggest turnouts for the contest later on that day. We had tons of kids that were participating, and this was early on in the campaign, so they weren't really familiar with how the yo-yo played. So when you give them the yo-yo, and the two kids that I picked up to come to the stage, I ended up giving them a yo-yo, which is what caused out of that frenzy anyways. And at that time, you kind of learn as you go. That's some things you kind of avoid doing. But it was interesting to see the crowd control for the teachers trying to get the kids to calm down. And the next thing you know, they're ushering me to go, and I look behind me as I'm making a quick getaway, and all the kids are running, screaming yo 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 yo.
I think
I don't know if that's a good story, but I think it was a fun one for
we all
me.
did experience something similar to that. Ken, tell me your best anecdote in all those travels that you did with the company.
Well, I was very fortunate because my birthday's in June, and I was always working during the summers. And so I spent so many birthdays, and I remember them by which country I was in. I remember which age I turned and which country I was in working. And what I got to see during those times at night when we weren't on the road was what nobody gets to see unless you're a yo-yo champion. Many people see the photographs and the videos of us on TV and the school shows and the street contests, but nobody knows the experience of a Russell Yo-Yo champion unless you've been on tour with the Russell Yo-Yo team. And what we would do at night, the trouble we would get into, the fun we would have, the challenging of each other with everything from yo-yos to drinking, was something I'll never ever forget. And it was always I was always pushing the boundaries of where I should be and where I should go. But that was very special to me. I remember once in England, the team needed some more groceries, some mixers for the drinks we were having. And so I was to go out to the market, and I walked downstairs and I walked outside, and there were some kids on motorcycles, and they recognized me because they were high school kids who had seen me do a yo-yo show. And they said, "Well, where are you going?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting some drinks for the team." They said, "Oh, come with us. We'll take you to the grocery store." Wow. And just as I got on the back of the motorcycle and zipped off into the night, one of the other yo-yo champions had come down and seen me disappear with the motorcycle gang. And you can imagine what the manager and the assistant manager went through as they were wondering what had happened to me. But that's just one little adventure, and there's so many great memories that you only get to have if you're a Russell Yo-Yo champion.
Absolutely.
One of the fun things I remember for those nights, like you said, were some of the challenges. We used to do, how many trapeze could you do in a row? And we'd challenge ourselves, and you'd get everybody taking turns, and we're all trying to get better. It was kind of, if I had to guess what it would be kind of like joining a fraternity of crazy guys and girls that just love the sport of yo-yo and have the excitement. And it was so much more than just the playing. They had to literally learn how to work with people. And so you can have somebody who's an amazing yo-yo player, but they'd make a terrible demonstrator, if you can understand what I'm saying, because they don't have that ability to take somebody and make them interested in learning the sport. That's something that all of our champions, all of our yo-yo players were able to do, I think. And that's something that you don't see with some of the competitors that cropped up over the years. They play yo-yo, but they don't have that connection with the people.
Telling me. Okay, anyway, Ricky, Ken, thank you very much indeed for attending this humble but very important invitation for myself. Being in brackets 50 years old with the yo-yo business, and if you ask me, after all the jobs that I have, because there was life after the yo-yo, fortunately for most of us, there was life after the yo-yos. If you ask me what I would like to be remembered like when I'm gone, I would like to be remembered as Gustavo, the yo-yo champ. And I would like to finish this meeting with that sentence, thanking you, both of you, so much for attending this very special occasion. Ken, thank you very much indeed.
Congratulations, Gustavo, on half a century of working with Yo-Yo, teaching kids and inspiring not just the children, but other professionals like ourselves. You were a mentor to me. Some of the values I still use today in my professional life are ones I learned from you. Always be closing, the persuasive sale. So many things that work well in life work well because of Yo-Yo. And it's great to see you in your sharp new jacket representing 50 years of life with Russell Yo-Yos and Coca-Cola. Congratulations, Gustavo.
Thank you very much indeed. Ricky, please say goodbye.
I could not do it any better than Ken just said. Like I said, you're more than just, you know, somebody that we worked with. You're a family friend, a mentor. I take it very personally because of the work you did with me in Hong Kong. Just I remember going to those staff meetings where you would get me up in front of everybody and say, "Okay, Ricky, let's see those 22 and loop the loops." And I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, there was pressure." But you know, I think I'm better for it. Absolutely better for it. You're an inspiration, and I love you.
Thank you so much. Likewise, Ricky. Please, my best regards to the whole family, including your mom. Please have a pleasant night, and thank you very much indeed from the bottom of my heart. Bye-bye now.
Bye, Gustavo.